been 23 years since the Reds swept the A's out of the World Series in 1990. But one incident that still stands out is the sight of a young man from San Bernardino snapping a bat on himself. Not out of anger, but it's just part of a swing. And Glenn, after all these years, I still find it baffling. It's one of those anomalies that I just cannot explain. But tell us, how you did this. I mean, because it's still, it doesn't register with me how you snap a bat on yourself taking a swing.
You know, it's pretty amazing. There's two things people remember about my career mostly when I go back to Cincinnati or when I run into fans on the street. The very first thing they always say, "Oh, I remember that time when you broke that bat in the World Series." That's one of them. And then obviously the catch is the other. But I had just gotten that video from MLB Media, and I posted it on my page and got a lot of comments. It was one of those situations where, and I had done that many times in the past. I mean, I did it when I was with Milwaukee a few times, and I did it with the Reds, but it was just, that was national coverage in the World Series, Game 4 against Dave Stewart. And he had just thrown me a fastball that I took for a strike. And I was all geared up and ready to swing, and he throws me another one that I still to this day have having nightmares that I missed that pitch. But I swung right through it, and just as all the other times when I broke the bat, as soon as I got to my follow through and I'm starting to bring the bat back, that action is what usually breaks the bat for some reason, and it's just the force of me swinging and having the bat going through the follow-through, and just as I'm beginning to bring it back is when I usually hear that crack and then the snap, and that was a pretty clean break on that one. And, I typically, many times amaze myself when it happened because it didn't happen every time. I always swung the bat the same way every single time. But when it would happen, it would be kind of a little bit of surprising to me because I wouldn't be expecting it. But because I had done it so many times, I had, okay, I know what to expect here. Boom, the bat snapped. So just a really forceful swing. I was pretty charged up, it being in the World Series Game 4 and wanting to do something big, and got a good pitch to hit, just missed it, and the bat snapped. And
Game of inches, huh? Game of inches.
Yeah, it was. To me, the thing that's really interesting about that whole sequence is just right before I broke the bat, the two announcers, I think it was Jack Buck and Tim McCarver, were talking about, oh, this guy is so big and strong. And then the very next pitch is when I swing and snap the bat in half. And then that whole commentary afterward was pretty
classic.
Fun.
It's classic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about life after baseball for Glenn Braggs. What has Glenn Braggs been doing? I know I saw you on television. You did a little bit of acting.
Yes.
And
yes.
What was that show? Refresh my memories about the super agent.
It was Arliss. It was called Arliss.
Arliss. Very funny show, by the way. But yes, I saw you there, and you did an episode there. Tell us a little bit about what Glenn Braggs did after you retired.
Well, that was one of the things that I did. When I got done playing, I actually obviously wanted to continue to play. I was over in Japan playing, and, I had injured my knee. When I came back from Japan, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I actually hooked up with another agent when I got back here to America to try to continue playing over here. And my options were pretty limited at that point. And, my wife was in the business. She's an entertainer, and she had connected me with her theatrical agent. And I thought, okay, this might be something nice for me to do for a little while, just to try to get my feet wet and, transition to, out of baseball and into something else. And so I thought, okay, that would be nice for me to do. So I did a little bit of acting. I actually booked a bunch of commercials those first couple of years. And then I just on a whim, my theatrical agent got that audition for me for the Arliss. And I actually wasn't even expecting anything. I go in there, and trying to think of the actor's name was Robert Wool.
Yeah, Robert Wool, very funny guy.
Yeah. And as soon as I walk into the audition room, the very first thing he says to me is, "Hey, you're Glenn Braggs. I had you on my fantasy team." So, I'm like, okay. I was like, well, how did I do?
Oh,
He
you got
said
a
I did
chance
pretty
then.
good for. Yeah, he said I did pretty good for him. So I auditioned. Didn't think the audition went that well, and ended up getting the part. And it was one of the funnest things I've ever done. And so I did a little bit of acting. I think after that I transitioned into doing some real estate. I still have my real estate license. I'm not really doing that much with it right now, but transitioned to real estate. And right now I've been doing some hitting instruction here in Santa Clarita, and been working with some kids and starting to find my passion for the game again and get back into baseball. So I've been doing a lot of doing that. I've been doing a lot of clinics. I do a lot of charity work. I went to the Dominican Republic and worked with some kids there. So it's just been a lot of that, either some acting, a little bit of real estate, pretty much a little bit of everything. And my number one job right now is just being a dad. I have 4 children, one in college and 2 in high school.
Holy cow!
And one in
flies,
elementary
huh?
right now. Yeah, yeah. So it's a pretty busy life, but it's great. I feel blessed to be able to do what I can do on a daily basis. And so yeah, that's what I've pretty much been doing
Let's go
for
back
the
in
last
time.
15 or so years. Yes.
Glenn, let's go back in time a little bit. Tell us about your beginnings, San Bernardino High School. A good friend that has since departed, Chuck Lewis, used to tell us that
Yes.
I believe he got you a pair of cleats or one of the first baseball cleats or a glove. Could you
That's right.
expand on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I met Chuck Lewis in, I think it was the Pony League that we were playing in during when I was younger. And I'm going to try and make this story short, but I didn't play a lot of baseball growing up.
That's
so
right.
I
You were not a baseball player.
Yeah, yeah, I played a little bit of Pony League and some Colt. And interesting story, Chuck did a lot for me back then because he bought cleats and gloves for me. And was just really instrumental in getting me into baseball. And that's probably a story that a lot of people don't know, because I actually didn't play baseball until my senior year. And how
Correct.
I got to play was Ron Shrimp, who was our baseball coach, needed a center fielder. And I was working at the time, and I just didn't have time. I wasn't planning on playing baseball. And he asked me if I wanted to come out and play, and I told him that if they could work my schedule around the baseball schedule around my work schedule, and he said, well, they'd work on it. And Chuck Lewis was the one that made that thing happen. He actually knew my boss. I was just working at a fast food restaurant at the time, but he knew my boss and got my boss to work my work schedule around the baseball schedule, and that's how I got to play my
Isn't that
senior
amazing?
year.
Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? But
Yeah, he was an amazing guy. That guy just did for everybody.
a dear friend and
Yeah.
a real legend indeed.
Yeah.
Glenn, tell us one thing I want you to talk to us about is life after sports, after the lights have been turned off. A lot of athletes, unfortunately, haven't been as successful as you've been, and they have a hard time adjusting to the everyday life after the accolades and like they say, the noise has died down. What are things that you would recommend, to some of the professional athletes, or when you talk to people, what you should do after you're done with your professional career? What are some of the things that would help people out?
I think the thing that's helped me out a lot was that I immediately found something else that I could be passionate about. And I was very passionate about baseball when I played. One of the things that allowed me or helped me to get past that point of I would say, people ask me when I got done with baseball, do I miss it? And for about the first 2 years, I would say, nah, I don't miss it. But I was just being in denial. I definitely didn't miss it. It took me about 2 years to admit that I was missing it, and then about another 2 years of a process of getting past that point of being able to have closure on it. But I immediately was able to find something I can get involved in, which I got into acting. And then I was married at the time, and we had children. So that was something that I could really, dig my heels into, become involved in. I'm a very involved dad in everything, all of their activities. And so I would say the biggest thing is to not let your passion for the game go quiet and take that passion that you have for the game and find whatever it is that you can be passionate about and make that your passion for the future.
Well, Glenn, I tell you, you're a true San Bernardino legend, and you're one of the first when we did Sports Beat back in 19. Wow, this is a long time ago, 1990.
Yes, it was.
Right after you won the World Series, you were very
That's
gracious
right.
enough to be one of my first guests. I want to say you were my first guest, and here we are, 23 years later. And I always wanted to ask you, if you didn't play baseball, what sport do you think you would have succeeded at?
You know, it's interesting. I didn't play a lot of sports growing up, and I played a little bit of football, played a little bit of baseball, but I was trying to get a football scholarship. So I went out for the football.
Well, you have the
team.
size.
Yeah, I was going to get a football scholarship, and I went out for the football team, made the team just my senior year, and got hurt in the second game. So that went out the window, and I wasn't even intending on playing baseball. So it was interesting story how it came about, but I was just intending on going on to Valley College, and then I was going to try to transfer to a 4-year from there, but my life took a different turn because I had good people in my life who directed me and were looking out for me, and the rest is history. And I never forget that. I always try to give back. That's why I do the charity stuff, and that's why when I do some training sessions, I do scholarships for some kids because it was a lot of those things were given to me. I didn't have to pay for those cleats. I didn't have to pay for that glove. And I try to give that back, and I never forgot. It was something that was instilled in me at a young age, and I never forgot that.
Well, Glenn, I always will regret the opportunity of seeing you in SBBC blue and white here, but I'm very happy for the way your life turned out. And tell you, it's been way too long between appearances here. I hope we see you down here in San Bernardino sometime, and come on by and say hi. You're really you're a special athlete, and much success to you, and stay in touch. And thank you for being with me once again, 23 years later here at KVCR Studios.
I appreciate that. It's been great, and I'd love to come down and meet with you, and because it definitely has been way too long.
Thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate it. Thanks again, Glenn, for joining us here on Streaming with Sola. Till the next time, see you at the game.